API chaining is the request will call, like suppose you are creating a user. So after you create a user, then you want to read the data of a user, and then you want to place a order with that same user, and you have to make a payment, and then you have order history to check. Maybe you have edit the order, start here, sign up, and then you will log in with that user, create a order. Those things you can perform from a UI. Now as a API automation tester or API tester, I want to perform these operations, this sequence in the API testing. I want to call a request, which is to create a user, then read that user which we created, then place a order, then check the payment, then edit a order, then again a cancel order, something. Once we get is create user data, we sent, and the response we get is user ID, which is new user ID created. For a login, for a next, whatever I created a user, I want to read. What is a method for a read? So there will be a post method for a create, and then get for a read. Now for a get request, what I will pass for a read, the user ID which is created here, right? If I pass this user ID, can I get the user data and read that data? Can I get that?
Yes.
Yes, because user ID, if I pass two user ID data will come in the response. So I can validate, okay, whatever I created the user, that only I have in the response for a get user, means what I created is saved in the database. So this is we create and we validate. Okay, this is we create and we validate. Okay, that is chaining. This is one of the scenario. Now it means what we need to validate means the confirmation that we have to check whether that user or a order that we created, updated, the update is done, whatever we created, the create is done, that we verify in the testing. So in the API testing, if I want to create and read the user and check that whatever data I gave in the create is only saved in the database, and read it and check, okay, this is saved properly. Now here are two requests. I'll again write first request is, and the second request is. First request is post, and which is a create user. Okay, this has a request. Suppose request name I will give create user. Okay, request create user, and then response name I will give response create user. Okay. Second, what I will give, the name is, it is a get request, and it is for a read user. Now what will be the request here? The name I will give as a and the response will be, I'll give as a name response. In terms of validation, validation means I want to cross verify. Cross verify, what I want to cross verify, whatever data I gave in the create is there in the response for a get user, these are matching or not. That is my validation. Okay, here I got user ID. What did we get in this? User ID. Okay, that might be suppose 2. And now in the request for a get, what I will pass, I'll pass this get user, like user ID 2. So now what response I got when I created, what value we provided, that we match. Then our pass here as a vanilla username. Okay, and the address I provide, user ID is created with the ID as a 2. Now I read the user ID 2, and if I get name Kavita, will it be okay? That request for a create user should be equal to response of get user. Okay, I created a user, then the user ID is created. I pass that user ID to next API and check that, okay, the details which I provided while I create is only saved in the database, and that is in the response of get user is displayed, which is matching. So if I give Okay, consider in this object. Okay, this is a object name. I gave this as a object name. Suppose we have this object dot username. Whatever is there should be equal to. In this object there is a username. Okay, consider it is a object. Then it should be equal. So I will write this condition. Is this condition correct? The first condition
Yes.
I'll write both should be equal. If there is one more parameter, okay, there is a one more parameter which is address. It should be same with the response address. Will there be a case we check not equals? If I give something more than username, address, and some more we have, okay, the user job profile is there. It should match with the response. What I am changing is clear to you. Is we check equals. Why? Now in this SOAP UI tool, we can create a variable. I'll create a variable with the name user ID.
Okay, and we'll give user ID only. So
Okay,
whatever
now
will be
for a
the
user ID, what I give? Response, create user. What is the object? Response, create user dot user ID. So whatever is available in this response, I'll store it in this user ID. And this user ID variable I'll pass to this get request. Okay. Yes, your question is right. That I will create a
yes.
variable and store it, and that variable we will pass it to get user. Okay. Now
Okay.
if I create a variable, so now runtime data will be changed. Okay, new user I created. Next time user ID is 3. Now you executed user ID is 3, and this time the 3 will be stored in this user ID variable. Now for a get user we are passing 3. Obviously it should match. Now this script should run and it should match. Yes or no? This script should match, and it should give equals to as a true. Then if all of three are correct, then we say our test case is pass. Yes, we say that
Yes.
test case is pass.
Yes.
Okay, so now how to create these variables we will see. Okay, now in the postman we have different types of variables. Now you can create a variable at a test case level. You can create a variable at test suite level. You can create a variable at a project level. Okay, and a global variable you can create. So now with the name itself, if you have a global variable, you can use that variable in any project. You might be having multiple projects in the tool. So all projects can use that. If you are creating a variable in one project, it will be available in that one project only. It's not available in other projects. So if I have user ID for one project, I'll use for one project only. I do not want to mix it with another project, then I'll use project. Okay, project level property as a user ID. So what levels of variables are available? Variables are available at a test suite level, test case level, and project level. So now if I have a test case level, obviously it is only accessible to that same test case. Same test case can read. So it is on you. You want to create a test case level variable, test suite level variable, or a project level, or a global level. So we will suggest create test case or test suite. Okay, for this kind of variables which are user ID, which are for this scenario. Now I want to run this test case. It is for the same test case we want to store. So this variable which is user ID, we will keep it as a at a test case level, which is our data is also secure. We do not want to give every data to a global or a project level. Not needed. Okay, so we will keep it as a test case level variable. So this variable is called property actually. Okay, so test case level property, test suite level property, project level property, and a global. These are the different. So now there are some environment variables which are you want to run on a QA or a dev or any other environment, then you create a global variable. If you have something project specific, that okay, every test case in that project should use this one, so we will create that variable as a project level. Okay, so that is, but very few properties will be at this level. Majorly we will write it everything in this only test case or test suite level. Now what is the test suite and test case? Test suite has more and more test cases. Okay, so one test suite can have 10, 20 test cases, depends. Okay, you can write 5 test cases, more test cases. So test suite will have more test cases. Test case is individual test case. So this can be your one test case. Two APIs you are calling in one test case itself. Two requests you are passing in a one test case. It's not test case 1 and 2. Okay, it's a step 1, step 2 in a one test case. Clear?
Um, login
Yes.
tester.
What is data generator?
It will take from data from random source.
Hmm.
Get request,
Okay.
get request.
It's a script. In Java also we can create random data. There is a random class. Using that class we can generate a random data. So random data is like if I created a user with vanilla name, next time I cannot create a user with the same email or same name. That is, every application will stop any duplicate data. So we have a need, like we need always a new username or a new email ID always for creating. So that is random data generated that will do the job. So in the ready API they gave us this data generator. Directly we execute, it will give some random data to us. Okay, so this data generator will do a random data for the testing, and data connection is to connect to a database. JDBC